Good morning. Check dig you dig. So, this is the continuation of steps 6 and 7 from the other day. I think we left off with the cement. That did we lack on that? I'll go back to the book for it. But 6 is we're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. And 7 is humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. So just kind of a review on that. Let's go back to the book. You can turn with me if you have the book, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we're going to turn to page, excuse me, page 75. I should have known that, but I didn't. Oh well. Coffee and cigarettes, I mean, probably the best way to start your day. Not. It's probably like the worst way to start your day. Well, I mean, probably not the worst. I could think of, waking up to a meth pipe, waking up to a drink, waking up to a needle in the arm. Those were pretty bad days, weren't they? So I guess coffee and cigarettes aren't that bad to wake up to, as opposed to the way our lives used to be. Okay, so it says, have we skipped? Remember, we're talking about after we reviewed the first 5 steps. Remember, we went back and we read the first 5 proposals of the 12 steps. And so now it's asking, you're asking yourself, have we skipped on the cement put into the foundation? And again, I would say the cement would be honesty. Were we fearless? Were we thorough? Did we include God? Were we open-minded? There's a few things that go into that cement. I would say the 3 key principles. Willingness. You have to have the willingness to do anything in life. You got to be honest with yourself, and then you can be honest with others. And you got to be willing to be open-minded, to take suggestions from people that have been there before or been through similar circumstances. So those are just some things that are going to be involved in that cement. And God is ultimately going to be everything that holds that foundation together. It's kind of like adding water to the cement. You're adding God, you're adding life and love to your life. It's not going to let you down like a human. Have we tried to make mortar without sand? I just gave you an analogy, and they're flipping it. Have you tried to make mortar or cement without water? You just can't do it. You need something wet to hold it together. So that's what it's talking about. And it gives you 2 references to cement and mortar. If we can answer to our satisfaction, talking again about that cement, did we skip on anything? We then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. I just talked about willingness. That's that first key to anything in life, not just the steps. You want to achieve your dream, you got to be willing to do what it takes. I struggle with that in my life. I'm not even going to really front about it. I've had a lot of businesses, a lot of pretty good ideas. And, I would say the number 1 thing that got in the way of those were drugs. But number 2, a close second, was that willingness to go to any length to achieve it, to achieve my goal. I would always give up. And drugs had a lot to do with that. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectable? Ask yourself that. Are you ready to have all those things removed? If not, don't feel bad. It's okay. Can He now take them all, every one? Remember, you just reviewed everything. All the selfish areas in your life where you're self-centered. Let me give you a brief description of that, by the way. So there's a small difference between being like self-centered and selfish. Selfish would be the guy in the cafeteria line that, uh, he's there for breakfast. He's got some eggs, some bacon, some toast. No cereal though. There's orange juice sitting there. There's one milk left. The guy behind him's got cereal, and it's still dry. And he notices it, but he takes that milk anyway and walks off. Right? The guy behind him needed the milk. He got cereal. Who eats dry cereal besides toddlers? And so that's selfishness. Now, self-centeredness, that same guy in that cafeteria line, same scenario. The guy behind him's got dry cereal. He doesn't have anything on his tray that requires milk besides his own stomach. But he takes that milk and he makes sure everybody sees him giving that milk to that guy behind him. Hey, look what I did. Even though I'm making a good gesture and I'm giving in my motives were to be kind and virtuous in giving, okay? So my motives set out good and I gave that milk to him. But in the midst of it, I made it all about me still. I made it all about me because, hey, look what I'm doing. I'm doing something good. I'm telling my left hand what my right hand's doing. And that's self-centeredness. If we cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us to be willing. So if there's something, again, one of the hardest things for people to let go of is child abuse or, being abused as a child in any way. That's very hard for for men and women boys and girls, to reveal. So, if you didn't let go of everything, pray for the willingness, it says, to God. He'll help you. When ready, we say something like this: My Creator. You can repeat after me if you want, or read from the book if you got it. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. Remember, He's our Father. He wants what's best for us, and He's not going to be ashamed of us, especially if we turn to Him in good or bad situations, and we should turn to Him in both. We should include Him in both. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. All right, so, in life, the best way out of here, when someone else is making you feel some kind of way, okay, is being prepared for it and what you're going to do in those times. And one thing you can't let anyone do is rent space in your head or steal your inner peace or steal your joy, whatever you want to call it. Other people's thoughts about you or negativity doesn't need to affect you. It's none of my business, as Annie Mineo would say. So, and in a good way out of that thought, when someone else is around you that's negative and being negative to you, or a negative thought of using, the best way out of it is to direct your thoughts. It's like that little toddler that's that's into something you don't want him into. And, I'm guilty of this. I've popped my kids, spanked them, because I had enough. But I try not to do that. And so the best way to get him to stop that negative activity is to redirect their thoughts onto something else. And that's true in us too as adults. Is when we're feeling that way, or when someone else is being negative around us, or we're having negative thoughts, it's to redirect our thoughts on maybe to help someone else, That's a good way out of your own head. It's just, hey, and it doesn't have to be 12-step related or Bible related or, spiritual or religious related. It can be, I have an elderly neighbor and I noticed that she's got leaves piled up in her yard, and I know it would be hard for her to get out there and do it. I'm going to take the rake next door and I'm going to do it. That's a good way out of your head. Is to focus your attention on someone else that you can help and that's what they're talking about here is how can you be useful to you and your fellows. And it doesn't have to be, again, 12-step related or biblical. It doesn't have to be a Bible study. How can you preach the word? It can be something simple as helping someone carry their groceries in or something. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We have then completed step 7. All right, so that's the completion of 6 and 7. 5, 6, and 7, all in the same night. Now, this just popped in my head. All right, it's from the other night. I want to talk to sponsors out there. That are doing their sponsees an injustice. Let me explain. Be open-minded about this, okay? I'm nobody special. I don't have that much time clean, but I have a lot of experience in failure, in relapse, and getting back on the wagon when I don't want to. And I've had many sponsors, and I know the history of AA and where this thing began. And I'm not being mean about this. I love you still, okay? Sometimes I come off a little rough. But you're doing your sponsee an injustice by prolonging their step work, okay? In the beginning of AA, and this is the main reason why, is because when you prolong their step work, I heard of somebody the other night that's still on step 3 and they are a year clean. It's the sponsor's fault. It's the sponsor's fault. She's directed this sorry, I just gave away it was a female, but they have directed this person to remain on these steps. And there's a lot of sponsors out there doing that. But in the beginning, when this thing started, it was meant for you to go through this process immediately. Now, what did you have to have if you were a person that was still struggling and in that hopeless state? You had to have the willingness to do it. Once you had the willingness, then boom, Bill W. and the rest of them come in. They put you through this process right away. What's the number one reason why? Because they didn't want to give alcoholism or addiction the chance to kill you even further or even more. There was no time to waste. If you were willing, you went through it immediately, 24, 48 hours. Something may have gotten away, such as maybe this individual had to go to work or he was getting treatment and he needed to rest. Those were the things that kept them from doing the step work. Or maybe Bill W. had to work or had some other obligation to fulfill. But those were the small things that kept them from their step work. And it happened in 24 or 48 hours. Go back and read the history on AA. So what have we done? We've come along and we've changed that process. Why? It wasn't broken. It wasn't broken. And they had it together. They tested it on themselves. They knew it worked. So why change it? Why change it? Why prolong? Think about it. Why prolong step work? The steps are simple. It says so in the book. These are simple suggestions. It's simple. The cliche, keep it simple, stupid. My first sponsor used to tell me it all the time and I never listened. But it was true because these steps are simple. They are simple because they don't want to waste any time for you to have that satisfaction, that relief daily with your Father, with the Creator, with God. They want you to have that personal relationship immediately because they know one point in time, and more than one points in time, multiple points in time, you're going to be alone. And it's just going to be you and your disease, your thoughts, uh, your negative thoughts, your desire to sin. It's natural. We were born into it, Adam and Eve. So that's why you don't do your sponsees an injustice. And I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of time on this, but this is important. You don't do your sponsees injustice by holding them up on steps. You don't. There was no sponsors in the beginning. There wasn't. If your sponsee is willing, put them through the steps immediately. It's not complicated. Each step is not complicated, okay? It's not. It doesn't take a lot of time to break it down and for them to understand it and for them to make a decision within themselves to accept that step. It's not the sponsor's job to accept it for them or to say, I don't think they're ready yet. If they tell you they're ready and they accept that step, then they're ready. We have to go off of what they say. Because we don't really know their heart. Only God does. So who are we to, I guess, judge their heart or to think we know their heart and to say, oh, you're not ready. I don't think, you're just saying that. Well, why would they be saying that if they don't have an understanding of that step? So please put your sponsees through the steps as long as they're willing immediately. It gives them that relief because this thing ends in the grave for about 60% of us. Anyway, that's 6 and 7. I love you. Keep praying and progress before perfection, right? You know, as long as we're progressing. And for the Bible guys out there or girls, you know, it says in the Bible that we want to chase perfection. What was perfection? What was our biggest example of perfection? Jesus. It says imitate Christ. And so, even though we're never going to reach that, we can chase it. It's like that rabbit out in front of those greyhounds when they're racing. They're never going to catch the rabbit, but they keep chasing it. All right? You're going to keep improving if you keep chasing it. That's all I got. All right, I'm out. Deuces. Stay tuned to Step 8. Coming to you live from the garage. KB.